No more lies, no more illusions. We are one. We accept the body that is before us. We place a sigil upon the body in acceptance. And may through the act of surrender, God's light shine forth. Greetings, brother. And so, the next phase of our conversation begins. In this, the part that we will play with you is to extend the lessons you have received. And within that energy will be understanding being. It will be taking the work that you've done with Anatheial, our son, and no longer into discussion and into practice. And that will be our focus. There will be times, if parts of the lesson was missed, to bring it forth into practice. We will point you back to the appropriate lesson to hear it again, so that we can go through questions in understanding of practicing it versus discussing it. And the boundaries with this is very important, because if we do not set them, we could very easily go back to simple discussions and not make the move that needs to occur into being or practicing into being. Does this make sense, and do you accept the format?
Yes and yes.
And so we begin the conversation. What would you like to know?
Thank you so much. I'm always excited talking to y'all. Before I start with my shenanigans, have you had a life on Earth before?
Not on Earth, but yes, we did.
Okay, wonderful. You've had a life before somewhere else, or yeah, but not on Earth. Okay. Well, you want to talk about that a little to give context about your previous lives?
Our incarnation is in a planet that no longer exists. And so in your terms, it was a long, long time ago.
A galaxy far, far away. Okay, and would you say experiences were similar to how they are here on Earth?
Yes,
Okay.
very much so.
Okay, so one thing that stood out with me from the beginning of the conversations with Anatheial was this idea that, because I had brought up the thing, it's like, what's in it for you? Almost in that binary, like, give or take, an aspect of lacking trust. And y'all had discussed of how there's nothing quite like seeing a mind unfurl and open up, like those aha moments. And people, and energies just rush to it. And I 100% get it. I see it when I hold classes, and it's just there's nothing like watching students piece it together and have their aha moments. It's I get it. I finally get that. And you all have done so much for me, David, and anyone who chooses to listen. I saw that. And I'd like to offer in exchange to give you a lesson if you're open to it.
Proceed.
I don't know if there's anything you have questions about that you'd like my perspective on, and we go from there, or I can just share some insights I've pieced together and present it to y'all from my experience and here on Earth.
We would love to hear that.
Yeah, is there a starting point you'd like to, or just jump into it?
Just jump into it.
All right. Thank you for accepting it. And the words don't do it justice. So for those listening at home, the words are wrapping paper, as you say. It is. It's deeper than the words, but I'm just going to use words to convey this. In all the work we've been doing together, I think a pivotal point for my current understanding is really appreciating the fact that we are animals. You can call it lizard brain, you can call it all that stuff, but there's this thoughts and emotions. It really, when Monsour brings it down to biology, it's almost like this surrender of powerless over the biology, so that there's nothing to fix. And in surrendering that, because DNA resequencing isn't going to do it, higher frequencies, all this stuff isn't going to do it in the current state of mind. So when I came to just full admission and acceptance of the biological nature of my being, and not separating it from spirit, like body is spirit. It's not, it just with me using the words, the body is a vehicle. Sure, we express in various forms, but the words already create a separation between spirit and its expression. And that separation of the body and spirit, I found was a thorn in getting to the essence of the experience, of the state of being, because there's already the separation, separating self from the body. And so going back to biology, it's going to start at biology and then it moves from there. And it's incredible. Acknowledging that lizard brain, acknowledging the violence, acknowledging what we call jealousy, protection, fear, biological fear, separate from psychological, just looking at the origins of these animal instinctual behaviors. And in further investigating and sitting with it and exploring, I came to an idea. Emotions are not these extra things. And I think having the diagnosis and experiencing bipolar disorder has really, really sunk this in a very, very, very physical level and an embodied way. Emotions aren't separate from the body. They aren't separate from the mind. They aren't separate. It's part of the moment. It's part of the mind. It's part of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, what I'm saying isn't quote unquote truth. This is what Monsour has discovered in his exploration. Going back to biology, they served a function. They served a function. My hackles are up. I feel a warmth. I feel a pull, an attachment to another person. Emotions are part of the biology. They're part of spirit. They're not a separate thing. And I think this was made clear, but Monsour, it just resonated with Monsour.
Okay.
And so I put that there. And then thoughts being a reactionary agent to give physical construct to the current experience, I can't talk about thoughts at a primal level. I know that what I experience as thoughts have a language. Like when I see a color, there's a thought of that color. It comes from language. So I'm going to put thoughts to the side for a little bit, but looking at emotions, it's a biology. It's nothing outside of biology in the physical body, which is part of me, part of spirit in this moment. So I put that over here. And then something I had talked with David twice about, and it's just developed more and more. Birds have wings. Tortoises have hard shells. Fish can swim and they're agile underwater. Lions have claws, teeth, blah, blah, blah. All that. Animals have such specialized adaptations to their environment. We're fragile as hell. We're so fragile and susceptible, and we don't have any specialized quote unquote equipment. And this is where the floodgates open for Monsour. What we do have is we have this ability to connect with other entities, plants, minerals, animals, and especially with each other. And we have what has eventually developed into the tool of the intellect, ways of, the word's escaping me. Specializations. So when we create community, that's our adaptive mechanism. When we create groups, that's our adaptive mechanism. And we can't have a functioning group if we don't trust each other. So part of that adaptive mechanism is having confidence in one another. I'm going very basic biology here. Very basic, innate. Part of that, what makes us survive, to take down a mammoth, to develop agriculture, to develop buildings, be they small huts, hollows in a tree, whatever, at a very primal level, hollowing out a cave. It's that bond that we create with each other. That's our adaptive strength. Our ability for community is our strength. And through the intellect, we can specialize. We can have the hunters. We can have the farmers. We can have the builders. We can have the caretakers. We can have the ones that tap into various medicines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No one individual can do it all. No one individual can do it all. Every individual is capable of anything, but to make it effective and survivable, it makes more sense to get into a group, to create a community and have specializations. However, the community cannot thrive if there's distrust. If we cannot have confidence in each other from the get-go, and if we can't be useful to each other, and many times usefulness is just existing. Just existing. Now we go on and we evolve into art. Well, what's art and literature all about? How do we further strengthen this connection with each other? We're not automatons. We're not machines. How do we uplift this spirit? Through art. And art is some kind of form of storytelling. So we create these stories, and it brings us closer together. And part of adapting to the world is understanding how things work. Because as a community can make a story to justify what's happening around them, they can flow with it. It doesn't have to be right. Just like science doesn't have to be, oh, this is controversial. Science doesn't have to be end all, be all, capital T truth. It's what makes sense of the world at this moment with what we know. So that's where art comes from, storytelling. And then storytelling further evolves into what we call philosophy. Mathematics is another form of storytelling. We're creating a story to explain abstract things because now we're getting to the point of abstraction. And it's just so amazing to watch the evolution of humanity. And our minds are evolving so quickly. Has the biology caught up? That's incredible to me. That's so incredible. All this to say, I'm going to put a little pause here. Give yourself a break. Do you see how fucking incredible we are? Do you see how amazing we are? Like, look back ancestrally, what we got through to get here. If that's not mind-blowing and fascinating and gives you chills, I don't know what is. So the Labubus don't matter. The latest Pokemon cards don't matter. How your body looks, none of that matters in the grand scheme of things. Look at what's happening now. It's so incredible. It's so incredible. From a biologic sense, we're here. And I can go so many places, but I want to continue the story of evolution here. I think that's just incredible. And it gives me so much hope in humanity. And it helps Monsour just come to peace when I fuck up, when I make a mistake, when I make a success. You know, these are all terms we created to judge something, but it's just things happening. And using the gift of storytelling to make sense of what I did. I fucked up here. So I messed up here. I did really well. I'm proud of me. This person, like, we create these stories to justify the experience, and it elicits these emotions. And it's like this marvelous symphony happening. It's amazing what we can do. It really is. I'm not saying we're better than birds, better than, like, just, this is our adaptive mechanism. It's cool to connect. And this is something y'all have discussed. It's one thing to intellectually, okay, I get it, but to feel it, to experience it, there's no other, it's such a, I wish I could just give you this experience. I wish I can just have you experience, like, that whole lineage of where we came from. And it's interesting because we can sit here and mock the current administration and mock the corruption and all that, but they all came from the same lineage. They all came from weak, frail animals that bonded together and created something and survived through everything. And what they go to show in any kind of what we call fascism, any kind of, we can say pedophiles, all these criminals, these down lows, these people that we reprimand and judge, it's a razor thin wire of faltering so easily. Monsour, without the hunger and the hope and knowing there's more than what's here, could have easily been his father. Easily. Biologically, I have all the same makeup, but he went a different course. But easily turned into a monster. And that's the same with the pedophiles, the rapists. And I don't, not all criminals are criminals. It's just something we labeled. But the people that we look down upon and judge collectively and cast out and punish, they all come from the same source. And unless we see that, we're just going to continue hating and separating. Unless we see that we come from the same source, that we strived through it all from the beginning of human history, we're just going to continue. We can't evolve. We're capable of so much more. I know we are.
Of course you are. You have done it before. There are points and times within your civilization, within your history, that you are much more aligned than you are now. And there are other points and times in your history that you are less aligned. There are cycles that occur. You follow the energy of what inspires for experience. And such is a time to come back into alignment. The karma, if you will, is that you must destroy yourself to do it. Is it necessary?
No.
Must that always be the final judgment? That the only way to give up the old is to destroy everything and start over? It is the story of the Tower of Babel, over and over and over again. Is it necessary? Must it be that again? Has been our question throughout the previous lessons.
No, it mustn't.
And what you understand is the glimpse of seeing everything as connected, and the compassion that it is not.
I don't like that I own a gun. It doesn't matter what I like. But tapping into the anger yesterday of justifying putting certain people to the gallows, I tapped into it and it just seemed to make sense. And Monsour snapping out of it, the power of the group mind is incredible. And it's easy to dismiss MAGA or liberals or whatever you want to. These are labels we create. Understand, these are labels we create that create more separation. But it's easy to label a crowd. But don't you see the gift of crowd mentality? That's what got us through. That's what got us to survive, is that crowd mentality. And with that, this idea, can I jump into freedom and individuality? Are we okay to jump into it because it ties in? So look at the gift of the crowd mentality. Look at the gift of it. It had a purpose, and it can still serve a purpose. It got us through. And if you look at military, don't think, act. There's something incredible about action. And Monsour discovered it through service work. You know, the idea of the self-centeredness, the self-obsession, yada, 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 in the thoughts. Getting caught up in thoughts and emotions. But the easiest way for Monsour to de-identify is through action. And coming to a realization that actions can alter and generate thoughts and emotions. And and sometimes action is meditation. Sometimes action is just listening. Sometimes action is just making a decision in the moment. That's act. It's an act. It's an act. Sometimes shifting the perception is an act. When one acts, that Martian energy of making a decision, of moving, acting, the body does it. The body does it. The body creates action. Now having a goal, an athletic goal, it's like, what's the point of it? This is vanity, yada yada. But Monsour was pulled and pulled and pulled. But life just flows because Monsour's acting. He doesn't have to know why, but the action altered his identification with thoughts and emotions, and the thoughts and emotions change. And playing around with, well, what if I this and that and this and that, watching how malleable they are, it's so easy to step away and de-identify with them. And so it's one of the yogas, I think, also just the yoga of the body. But even this, the conversation we're having is an action. And through action, we can generate new thoughts and emotions however we want. And just this, I think this is what's meant by like playing with the paint palette and the paintbrush given to us as thoughts and emotions. We can create what we want with them. And it's through action. It's through action, through service. Service is a form of action. And that through all the service work, and I'm not bragging here, it's just getting out of the self, the story of the self, and changing the story. We're again back to the biology. What kept us connected? Storytelling to explain the world, and it kept us surviving. And so now we're at this we have this funny idea of individuality. And it's almost like individuality is tied with freedom. And it's funny, you have to earn your freedom is so ridiculous, such a ridiculous statement. There's no checklist or no have-tos to earn freedom. Freedom is in the moment. Freedom isn't a confinement of your body or your body not being confined. How many of us are open? We have the money, the financial openness, we're healthy, we can move about, but we're stuck. So stuck. And can't do anything, and we're stuck in this loop. Freedom isn't a physical thing. It isn't something you can check off a list or gather enough money or meet in the future. Freedom happens now. It's within each of our minds. We can't wait for someone to come and give us freedom. We can't wait for something. We can't wait for a higher frequency. We can't wait for a healing. We can't wait. In the act of waiting for freedom, one will never be free. One will never be free because it's contingent on something else. So what is received and mistaken as freedom after the checklist, after Jesus comes and saves us, after we get the blessings of an archangel, no offense, what's received is not actually freedom. It's finally giving yourself permission to think you're free. But we are always, freedom is in the moment, and it has nothing to do with individuality. It has nothing to do with individuality. Individuality, is it not a marketing scheme? Is individuality not just another way of generating money? Be an individual. Express yourself with this selection of clothing. Customize your iPad or MacBook with these skins. That's not individuality. That's another form of one-upsmanship, maybe. That's another form of, okay, you can express yourself, but that's not individuality. That's curated and sold as individuality to further generate money. It's a trap. It's another trap called individuality. To seek individuality is not freedom. It's actually keeping us in the trap. Freedom is only in the moment. Freedom is only in the moment, and it's a decision. It's an act. Every moment. You can't earn it. It can't be granted to you. It has nothing to do with the physical. It's in the moment, in your mind. And the funny thing is, it's not funny, but it ties back to the lesson on responsibility. Freedom doesn't mean I can do whatever the hell I want. That's not freedom. That's reactionary. That's just nonsense. It's nonsense. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I can do whatever I want. That's nonsense. With freedom comes responsibility and accountability. Because if one cannot take accountability for their actions that they chose freely, it isn't freedom. It isn't freedom. It was an acting out. And acting out is always a reaction to something. Be it subconscious, be it a hurt feeling, be it a bad burrito. Acting out is not an act of freedom. Being quirky for the sake of quirkiness is not freedom. Demonstrating on the streets loudly because of a policy is not freedom. I'm not invalidating these practices. I'm looking at the intention behind it. Freedom comes with responsibility and accountability. So in essence, if we're waiting for someone to save us, if we're waiting for some kind of healing, if we're waiting for some divine grace to give us permission, already we're not taking responsibility and we're not taking accountability. Already we're not taking responsibility and we're not taking accountability. And I don't mean the we, the ego, I, the avatar we're identified with. I'm talking about I, we, us, as a group, as a collective. And I loathe to use the word individual because who is Monsour without everyone else? So to wait on someone to come and save us is the most disrespectful thing one can do to themselves and humanity. It is a cop-out. It is a fear response. It is not taking accountability and responsibility. And we all want freedom, but do we? Because with it, you have to own everything in your mind, in your life. Monsour does, and we all do. I'm going to put it out there. Maybe I'll go on the gallows. I don't care. Because anytime we look to the future to gain freedom, to earn it, we're already pulling away from the present. And like what was said before, freedom is only experienced within the present. So to gain it puts it in time, it puts it away from the present. And I think this is one of the manifestations or origins of psychological based fear. There's nothing wrong with biologic fear. Psychological fear, tripping out, checklist, I'm not good enough, all that takes us away from the present moment. And one thing Monsour discovered is biological fear brings us so in the moment. It makes us so present. When a semi is about to hit you, are you not so fully in the present moment? Biological fear, the death instinct, it brings one fully into the present. And this was it was a product of Monsour's daily meditation on death since 2017. 2017, constantly thinking about death and dying and what does the finality of that mean. And the fear, so there's the death instinct, the biological fear instinct. God, why have you forsaken me? That biological fear instinct that is necessary to keep not us alive, not individual I alive, but to keep the species alive. To keep the species alive. I think that's why martyrdom or altruism is easier at an older age, just from a very biological perspective. Ain't got no more seed to reproduce. I can die. The lineage just goes on. But you also lose knowledge. You lose skills, etc., etc. We'll leave that separate. But the biological fear, that death instinct, there's nothing wrong with it. And it's funny, that fear brings us so fully in the moment. The psychological fear can only take us out of the moment. And so I don't even like calling them both fear. They're very different. One's a mechanism of action to keep the lineage going. And it's interesting because what keeps us going in that respect brings us in the fully in the moment. So does that mean the only way for us to continue our species and to continue surviving and the planet to survive is to completely always be in the moment? And maybe this whole mass suicide that we're collectively participating in, with the nuclear bombs, the threats of war, genocide, environmental changes, is going to put us in such a state of biological fear that we have no choice but to fully be present. What would happen in mass if we're all fully present? Is that the shift that happens? Is that what the point of the level playing field is? That in mass we're so fully present because we finally activated that death response that brings us into the moment, and we have no choice but to wake up from the dream? What do I know? But looking at it biologically, going back to the point of the lesson, when Monsour looks at things very biologically, it's like a sigh of relief, and there's nothing to fix other than one's perception. I don't have to have it right. What I just expressed in the lesson I just presented could be complete garbage, but it's at this moment the truth Monsour came to. Not a capital T truth, but it's the truth that Monsour came to, and I own it fully. I own it fully, open to it changing and shifting. But look at the biology. We're animals. We're violent. We're loving. We're compassionate. We're jealous. We're angry. We are what we call these emotions. When we experience these emotions, that's what we are. And there's nothing wrong with that if we just own it and see it and take responsibility and accountability. Because when we no longer fight the emotions and we no longer fight the thoughts, we have the space and energy, the mental and emotional real estate to take action. Because no amount of thinking it through, no amount of feeling it out, no amount of healing can save one. No amount of Jesus can save anyone unless one takes action and takes full responsibility and accountability. That's real freedom. And that's nothing from a book. That's nothing from a healing. That's nothing from a church. That's nothing from a spirit. And that's nothing from me. That's each person. And I don't like to use the word each individual. We're separating individuality. That's a marketing scheme. I don't like calling it individuality. It's a complete marketing scheme. It doesn't matter what labubu you have. It doesn't matter what brand of clothing you had. That doesn't make you an individual. Owning yourself, owning it all, makes you an individual. And when one can own that true individuality, not designer individuality, but true individuality, one cannot help but see that the collective is all from the same source. And when one can see that, one cannot harm another. One cannot harm another. We have the ability. We've done it before. We can wake up. We can do it. That's what I have. That's what I have to present to you.
And it was a beautiful presentation.
Thank you.
There are some points we would like to highlight. Are you okay with that?
You got 15 minutes. But yeah, I'll give you a 5-minute.
You'll give us 5 minutes?
No, I'll give you a 5-minute warning. You know, I'm just being conscious of our medical appointment.
And so,
but thank you.
Within what you expressed, the difference of that, is it wrong, is it right, what is it based on? boil it down, and remove what doesn't work and focus on what works. Get the gold from the rocks. Because when you gather that, you have something of value. Irony that we use a materialistic example to express that, we acknowledge, but it brings the correct metaphor into play. Within what you expressed was what you found what works, sandwiched around what doesn't work. Let that go and focus on the truth of what works. And therein is your voice. Focus on that completely, and you don't need to explain why it doesn't work. People will be pulled to the knowing of what works. And also, so will you. It won't be so tumultuous of an experience. What you're coming to is an understanding of your light within the universe, your perspective, and understanding what the universe gives back, and that is a cooperation, a joining, a completion. You can't have one without the other. And so let the rest go. It is understanding the responsibility, and through that, the relationship and connection to what is. Second point we will make is the emotions, and that it's biological. The emotions, when they are particularly, as you term them, negative, will create toxins in the body. The body responds. When they are positive, as the term is used, and that term has turned toxic, but when they are free-flowing and joy-filled throughout the moment, not trying, not attempting, not like a parrot saying a prayer, but like a spontaneous laugh that moves through. They release healthy chemicals in the body. The emotions are more powerful than you realize. They can heal, or they can cook. They can damage, and the body responds. And so it is biological in nature. You are correct. You can't have one without the other. They are part of perceptions. And so therefore, there is an immediate reaction to the physicality around them. And so take that into consideration when you look at them and connect the biological and ask the question, how does that work in manifestation? If the thoughts and emotion give physical construct, emotions seem to have a direct connection to changing matter in physicality. The thoughts seem to give it like a lens, a structure to focus. Thoughts, emotions being the energy that goes through the lens to create physical construct. Consider that concept and ask, what does it mean?
Can I make an astrological point? I just thought it sounds like Mars and Venus. They always work together. You can't look at Mars without looking at Venus in a chart, and vice versa. Mars rules a fire sign, Aries, and a water sign, Scorpio. Libra or emotion, Scorpio, water, spirit, act, Aries, fire. Venus rules Taurus, earth, practical, and Libra, air, intellect, relating. And you would think thoughts are a masculine thing, but earth, air seems more in line with thoughts. And what is Venus's function? To focalize where the energy of Mars goes through. Because Mars without Venus is just this unbridled energy. Emotion, spirit, blah. And Venus without Mars can be a stale, intellectual, superficial exercise. Both are needed. And so thoughts being the Venusian aspect and emotions being the Martian aspect. Just something I put together just now.
And we would say expand the lens because they're all required. Mm-hmm. Earth, the body. Within that is the water, the breath, air. But when the air is transferred to the lungs, the fire. All of the elements working harmoniously.
Yeah.
And then you add the fifth element, spirit. But again, where does the thoughts and emotions? And there is the Bible expression that God sculpted Adam and Eve from the earth. Why would you not be like that which created you? Mm-hmm. And the emotions and thoughts is the lens in which you do it. You can destroy the body, or you can elevate it to its true potential. When the Christ was doing the miracles, it was still through the body. When the Buddha enlightened, it was still through the body. Everything you have now is exactly what you have when you liberate. The only difference is how you perceive it. Mm-hmm. See the potential and see the power. The thoughts and emotions, as we have taught, is not being perceived correctly. And we will quote our son, God has given you a beautiful paint set. And what do we see you doing with it in your vehicle? Painting the windshield. Mm-hmm. What you want to see. What is their true potential and purpose? What can you do with those gifts? And how would the clay respond, sculpted by its creator? Potential. You are close. You are getting closer. And our peace to you.
Thank you.